Hello there and welcome to a State of the CoH3 address where we have a think about what we would have liked to have seen, what we want to see, and what we expect to see in the future for this pretty decent game now, Company Heroes 3, but it can only get better from here, let's hope. So let's get straight into it. This is my original wish list back when CoH3 first came out and it was clearly not ready yet. And let's go through and give a score out of 10 to see how well Relic have done based on my personal original expectations. Functioning main menu UI, invites, no placeholder icons. I think they're an 8 out of 10 for that. They've got 2/3 of it done and they've got most of the placeholder icons replaced, but they've still got a way to go. I really expect to see them all replaced soon. Replay observer mode, they've only done one of them, and it's decent for most people's usage. I can certainly get a lot out of it, but I would have liked to have been consulted, just like Tightrope would have preferred, because we really reckon they could have nailed it and made a 10 out of 10 replay feature. Observer mode, we really want that for the future so we can make tournaments live and events live. Right now, they're all on replays, and it's a little bit kind of dated. Doesn't feel quite as cool as it should do, and the casters are often spoiled as to who's won already. Functioning ping, team colours, unit owner names, yep, 10. I think they did 2 iterations of that, and it's finally what we'd like. Map vetoes and more than 2 4v4 maps. So on map variety, they're actually doing quite well. The 4v4 map pool is probably acceptable for a release state now. It's got some nice maps, and we know there's way more to come. So on the strength of that, I'd like to give them a high score, but we've still got no sign of map vetoes. So I'll give them a 6, because we know they're doing better on maps now, but we've still got no map vetoes, and that's not good. Crushing infantry with tanks. They actually implemented this to an extent, and it kind of shows that maybe my judgment of this idea wasn't quite right, because I thought they definitely would have wanted crushing, and they've shown that they didn't fully want crushing. So, yeah, I don't know. I would have given it 5, because it's kind of not that relevant as a point anymore, because Relic have shown their hand. They don't fully want crushing back, even if I do. Ladder in game. Nope, they've not done that yet. Pathing at least is nearly good as CoH2. It's not as good as CoH2 yet. It's nearly as good, but it's not as good. So maybe we could give this a high score, maybe a 7 or an 8. I'll give them an 8. I think that light vehicles are really annoying for some top-level players who kind of do figure of 8s now and again. And I can show you that on screen here, which is quite funny. This is Dexon, so profanity warning.
Bro, can you stop doing the fucking 360s?
That's his request, and then we've got Inca Una here.
Fucking them. You see? Doing 360s.
There you go. So, yep, 360s are definitely a real thing, and it's mostly prone to light vehicles, so we really want to see that ironed out. But other than that, the pathing's not too bad now. It's actually really good, I think, personally. So I want to give them an 8 out of 10 for that. Planes, yeah, they did that one, fair enough. I'm saying fair enough. Something like that probably took loads of work, but, you know, it should have been like that at launch. It's pretty decent now. Planes are good. Surrender button, endgame screen, and working stats. Well, they only did 2 out of 3, and the stats are pretty good. Endgame screen's not quite there, so I'm going to give them maybe a 6. Maybe even a 5. Yeah, 6. They get a 6 for that. And sound achieving final mix of great quality. It got a little bit better, but it's nowhere near where I want it to be. And that brings me on to my next document, which is kind of like the first one, but it's me talking about what I want to see from CoH3 to make it as good as CoH2 in 2023, like the last version of CoH2 we ever saw. And audio rework on par with CoH1, CoH2 is an absolute must. I think now the graphics have been drastically improved. This is what we want to see next. We want to have that bass. We want to have that rumble of thunder. We want to come away from a game thinking, bloody hell, Company Heroes is a step above all those other Steam titles that you could be playing. Company Heroes is a true AAA title, and that means there's a lot of work that's still got to go into that audio. I've grouped the UI options because there's a lot I'd like to see. Obviously, you've got map vetoes, vote to surrender, and search as random. It's all UI work. I'm sure there's some proper coding that has to go into it as well, but we need to see that. Why have we not had search as random since CoH1? It can only make wait times go down because some people like to play anything. They also don't like the choice, and then they can blame the game if they lost because they had to play as Brits or something. But it's such a fun option, and people have been requesting that for the 10 years plus now since CoH1 was a thing. So I really want to see that. Vote to surrender. That's farcical. That should be so easily done. And it's crazy that you have to basically /L and forego merit in order to get out of a game. And map vetoes. With the more maps coming in February, March, in the next patch, the 1.5 patch, I really want to see that. Pathing improvements, I've already shown you what I meant there. So we'll go on to number 4. Improved balancing, cadence, and transparency. With this, I want to see a closed beta, perhaps, or a semi-open beta for balancing. I want top leading players in 1v1 and 2v2 and team games to be advising Relic on what they're seeing. I want Relic to commit to more regular patching, because what we're seeing now is the players are ready to play. They want to play CoH3. They acknowledge it's gotten better, but when the meta gets stale, they're not staying around. We're already down to about, of the 1.4 spike, where we went from 2,000 average players to 3,000, we're back down to about 2,500, and I think that's mostly waiting for the next patch. It's too long to wait. Next, we need to see some reworks. So DAC need a rework, including replaced Panzer Grenadiers. So I'll just go straight into what I mean there. So let me get onto that now. This is a Panzer Grenadier. This is a Panzer Grenadier. When you're playing team games, they look the same, but they're completely different in how they operate. One's got an SDG, one's got a Car 98K, so completely different weapons profiles. However, they have the exact same icon, which is outlandish. So I'm suggesting that the DAC one, which by the way is this one, should instead be called Panzer Lanzer or Panzer Schützen or Panzer Soldaten. There's a lot of games, not necessarily historically accurate, but anything other than Panzer Grenadier, just as an idea there. Because that should form part of a DAC rework. And now there's lots of other things that have to happen with DAC to try and get them away from being a cheese faction, where it's all about the light vehicles swarming in, this kind of grouped bonus blob Zerg-like faction. I think Panzer Elite and not OKW, because I think DAC are already better than how OKW started out. Don't get me wrong, OKW had a worse start than DAC did, and I was there for it. I was there part of the OKW beta, the closed beta, helping Relic make OKW, and I lived through every iteration of OKW. I can promise you, at least it's not as bad as OKW was. However, that's no excuse. It should be better, and it should aspire to be more like Panzer Elite from CoH1. Not as cheesy though. We want to get away from these cheesy factions. So whatever we can do, and this is a conversation for another video, because we could have a raft of concepts for how DAC can be improved. I just want to see improvements. And to start us off, Panzer Grenadiers being replaced with a slightly different unit, maybe performs a different way. It could also have the palm tree with the here Kreutzer symbol underneath the palm tree as the icon. So I'd love to see a replacement of the icon with a palm tree instead of the Panzer Grenadier symbol, and of course rename it. And I'm sure that's a bit of work, but trust me, it's going to be worth it, because people will think of the game as a more premium game rather than simply a lazy game that can't think of unique names. Because right now, that's really lazy in my personal opinion. Next, Brit rework. I've talked about this in the past. I want to see the Archer tank destroyer as part of Tier 4, or I think it's actually Tier 3. I also want it so you don't have to build every single tier on Brits. You don't have to go platoon, company, etc. in order to get the next tier building. I'd like to see maybe if you build the previous building, the next building's a bit cheaper, but you do have the option to skip tech. And right now we don't have that. So a Brit rework would be really fun. And I would possibly even like to see the grants, the M4 grant taken and put into a commander, maybe an Australian-themed commander, and made really overpowered, make it this late-game unit, and maybe bring the Archer into the core tech tree, because Brits really lack mobile, heavy anti-tank. Next, fixed responsiveness issues and input lag. Now, I don't want to go too much into detail here. All I can absolutely promise you is that this is a real thing. It does exist, and especially when your processor's processing quite a lot, you will notice it more. So I've got a computer that can get through any threading amount of situation quite quickly. My core processor's pretty monstrous. I've spent a lot of money, but if you've got a busy game and you've got a lot of threading operations going on, what you'll find is there's a bit of lag delay to your actions. And yeah, it's only a third of a second, but if you were to pause this video, this by the way is on a local client, so there's no internet lag, you will notice that between the click and the actual movement, there's about sometimes up to 300 milliseconds. And it's really, really frustrating, especially if you're a high-level player, because it's a resistance to how fluid you want to play. Like, players like me, we're not going to be attacked by this, but we still do feel it. So when I've got a busy game, sometimes I really do feel that input lag, and I know it exists, and because I know it exists as well, and because all the top-level players, it's their bane, because they really do play with the amount of fluency that 300 milliseconds of lag can affect, because they've told me it exists, and they've showed me. Jibber Jabber Jobber was really good. He showed a video proving, I tried to find it for this YouTube video, a video proving that it's there, and I've had confirmation since. So it's there, we just need Relic to work on it, and I know it's within their capabilities to do so. They just need to have the resource, I hope. And this is all speculation. I've none of this confirmed. I'm just kind of like assuming that they have the resource, assuming that they can fix it. But I really do want them to do that, because it'll make the game play better for everybody. Even if you don't know that input lag exists, trust me, it's there. And if Relic fix it, it will make your experience better. Anyway, next we've got observer mode. That's something, of course, we really need for tournaments to make them feel live and really fun to watch. What else do we need? We need in-game menus, ladders, and resources. Now, this was actually pointed out by Elpern. Like Company of Heroes to this day isn't as good as it should be in terms of Company of Heroes 3, in terms of actually displaying any information in the screen. I mean, there's not enough. Whilst you're waiting, the queue times can be up to 8 minutes. There's nothing to really look at. You can look at the store. Well, that's kind of garish. It's not that interesting. The loadout screen could do with a lot of work. And there's still a lot to go at in terms of making this feel like a AAA title with resources. And one thing I'd love to see is, why don't Relic have an in-game browser? If they're finding it difficult to get this kind of information into the game, why don't they branch out to community partners and involve things like CoH3, CoH3stats.com, or maybe even you've got Codex here, which is another great website. You could have this information. People have already worked on it for you. It's driven by your game, and people could browse it. Why can't they have an in-game browser? And then they give these guys a few, I don't know, they help run the servers for them, give them $500 each or something. And then you could have all these resources in-game. That's just my idea there. Why are we stuck with these? It's not the best looking material in-game ever, is it? Let's face it. I mean, it's a little bit like, it doesn't quite look like a AAA title, does it? Why are we stuck with this when we could all have so much more? Why are we relying on websites and APIs driven information outside of the game? Why are our leaderboards outside of the game? We've got all this great info, and it's really high quality, made by some really cool guys that are working really hard. This is Page P, and then you've got the guys. There's 3 guys that work on this. You can find all the information about them here and there. Neffy and Hi, I'm Sim and Striker and Page P. All these guys are helping so much. Co-nerds, the power of nerds. We should be utilising that. So I just don't know why Relic don't branch out and make an in-game browser that can point to the URLs of these. And then finally, this is, of course, quality of life, but these 3 features aren't really up to standard quite yet. Mines have gotten a bit better, but there's still functionality issues. There's things triggering them at random sometimes. They don't get swept as well as they should do. Demos are horrendous right now. You can't delete demos in certain situations or diffuse them without AoE weapons. It's impossible. And snares don't operate as a lot of players expect. Sometimes they're following players for a really long time, and the rules of snares aren't adequately explained in the game anywhere. Somebody said snares are designed like CoH1, not like CoH2. No, I wouldn't say that fully. I think they've tried to make the design philosophy a little bit more similar to CoH1, but I don't think they fully got there, to be honest. They're somewhere in between the two. So if you are within the snaring circle and you leave the snaring circle before the animation finishes, I believe, then it will cancel. But the annoying thing for players is that is if the snaring model is killed, the entire order is cancelled. In CoH2, for example, if the snaring model was killed, the next model in the squad would bring the Faust out and fire it. So there was a lot of quality of life in Company of Heroes 2 that isn't currently in Company of Heroes 3 with regards to snares, demos, mines specifically, and relics still need to work on that. Okay, thanks for watching, YouTube. We've been 15 minutes into this. That's not a bad time to wrap it up. I really want to hear your ideas. Do you like mine? Do you agree with my judgment on the original situation and where we're up to now? We never actually tallied that up, actually. We're on a score of 62 out of 10. That sounds about right in terms of full completion of what I expected. And now I've got an additional, well, a replacement 10 list of what I want to see to make CoH3 match where we ended up with CoH2. Thanks for watching, guys, and hope you have a lovely weekend.